So my research topic is ice, how ice breaks, how ice does all kinds of things, and with an engineering twist, kind of. So when I'm interested in ice, I'm also interested in kind of the effects of ice on ships or offshore wind farms.
Oh, that's really fascinating. So how did you end up being lured into looking at historical ships, let's say? How was that invitation extended to you? How did you end up working with the Endurance?
It is by accident, in the sense that when the Endurance22 Expedition was kind of forming, the Falklands Maritime Heritage Trust, who organized the expedition, so they chartered South African Antarctic research ship S.A. Agulhas II, which happens to be built in Finland. And when it was built, 2012, our research group installed instruments in it. So our measurement instruments are in the ship. And so I kind of, from the foundation point of view, I came with the ship in a sense. So I was doing my sea ice research on the side when kind of the other part of the expedition were looking for the wreck. So I didn't have any role in the search of the wreck. This came kind of later. Then I was writing a blog in my mother tongue Finnish from the expedition, and the blog became really popular in Finland. And then many people told me that now you need to write a book, and I did. I wrote a kind of narrative nonfiction book on this expedition, on Shackleton and Endurance and our expedition, and about my research. It came out a year ago. And while doing research for that book, I started thinking, why did Endurance sink? And that's kind of how this paper then became. So all this happened after the expedition. But I guess it's fair and honest to say that I was being there with the expedition then kind of lured me, or what would be the right word, kind of lured me into this story, and then like that was 22, then 23 and 24 I was in the archives.
That's fascinating. I had no idea about the book, and apologies for that. But what a lovely route to take, though, to sort of combine that, I don't know, serendipitous, a possibility to be there, which makes sense because these ships are not cheap to run. So you may as well get on board and do your research when you can. If somebody else is paying, even better. But were you actually there when they discovered the wreck?
I was standing above the wreck when it was discovered, and of course then I didn't know. I was on the ice taking samples, because that's what I do. I was measuring the forces to the ship, the response of the ship, and then I went, I think, 16 times on the ice to get. I have a coring device, so I took samples from the ice and I analyzed. Then I kind of characterized the ice, and I was standing above the wreck and taking samples from the ice, and I didn't know then that this underwater robot was 3 kilometers below me doing fascinating observations. So I learned that same day, of course, but then in the evening.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yes, I was definitely there, but I just didn't know it then.
You were just 3 kilometers above Shackleton's vessel. That's amazing. So did you see the images that evening?
Yeah.
And go on, it must have been incredible.
It was incredible, of course. The images are wonderful, and yes, and yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, I mean, as a maritime archaeologist, I think for anybody, but particularly for somebody with, my own research interests, it must be a really special moment. But so did you think at that point about, because you talk about how the whole story of your involvement with really analysing the way or the reasons that the ship went down happened, later. Did you not think at that point, perhaps these cores that you're taking and the tests that you're doing would actually help understand why she ended up in the position that she did in what appears to be a much more intact version than most, that historically we've sort of believed.
My original idea, so my answer is yes, but my original idea was that for a long time, I was trying to find the explanation from the ice. I was hoping to find some kind of way to explain the crushing of Endurance from the ice point of view. So I was reading diaries of Endurance, Shackleton's crew members. I was reading the diaries, especially the diaries of the scientists, and trying to find out was there kind of specific ice conditions to explain this. But that never went anywhere. I didn't find any peculiar ice conditions. And then gradually then, as scientists do, that gradually I understood that I need to turn my focus from the ice to the ship. Of course, it's a trivial question that it's either the ice which was kind of enormous pressures, no structure can withstand those, or it's the structure that was not strong enough. That's trivial, that it's either or. But I was, for a long time, I was just looking at the ice. I was interested on that because of my background. But then I needed that, at some stage I needed to kind of admit myself that the ice conditions were normal. There was nothing special in the ice conditions. So the reason must be in the ship. And then when I told myself that, then kind of things started to fall into kind of in the correct places. And then there was this kind of definitive moment when I started reading the book by Wilhelm Filchner, this German scientist whose ship Deutschland had been on the same sea area just before Endurance and came back intact. But when I read from his book that Deutschland was strengthened for those ice conditions following the advice of Shackleton, and I saw the drawings of this German ship in his book, and then I thought that, because to me it made immediately sense how it was strengthened for the Weddell Sea. But that was news to me, that it was that was done following the recommendation by Shackleton. And so then I understood that I'm into something here.
So the recommendation by Shackleton was after he'd returned, presumably. No, it was before. No. So this is what's really interesting, though, because from the little research I've done, which is obviously completely minor in comparison to you, he had an understanding that the ship he was about to take, the Endurance, to the Antarctic was potentially not strong enough to endure the sea ice. So was that the reality? He's advising other people to build their ship stronger, and yet his ship isn't strong enough in theory.
Exactly. and then yes, exactly. That is what happened. And then he wrote to his wife before going to the Weddell Sea in late 1914, that this ship is not as strong as Nimrod, which was Shackleton's earlier ship. And that letter then, that it's in the archives in Cambridge. And that letter is, I don't know if that is the smoking gun or what is, but these two things, that he advised Filchner, and that is recorded in Filchner's book, and also then that he wrote this letter to his wife, to me is absolutely clear that he knew that his ship was not as strong as other ships that were kind of designed for those compressive conditions. Endurance was never designed for those conditions.
Okay, I'm talking to a professor of solid mechanics, and I'm really interested to know why you think this is completely a social, personal question, but why did he make that decision? Did he have no choice about which ship he Was he too anxious? I mean, having done a little bit of research, very tangentially, in the Arctic, there's something that drives people to get there sooner or to do things first.